In the following tutorial, we're going to embed the MP3 podcast into our page using a free Flash MP3 player from PremiumBeat.com. Now, this is one of the many different free players that are out there on the internet. You can find them all over the place, and they pretty much all work the same, but this one is kind of nice, so I decided to use it. So they have a couple of different ones on their website. They have a mini Flash MP3 player. They have a single track MP3 player, which is what we're using. They have a multiple track one here that changes the title for each track, and then they have a multiple track here with a menu where you can see the playlist easily and choose items from that playlist quickly. Anyway, we're going to be downloading this and placing it into the same folder with our podcast. So the very first thing is to find your podcast MP3 file and place it in the main folder of your website. Then download the player SWF file, player single SWF file, and put it into the same folder of your website as well. Then we can copy the code that we have below. Now, we're not going to be using SWF object. We're going to be using just a regular simple embed script. Now, I have wrapped this with a div id equals mp3 player, and the reason why is so I can easily add a little bit of CSS to it. So let's go to our pages. I'm going to be using the index page and putting it inside here. So I'm going to go to the beginning of my page, and this is going to be placed in the top of the content. Now, there's currently an image here, and I'm actually going to delete that image because I'm going to use this podcast instead. So if I go into the code view, you'll notice that I have my title, and then right after that, paragraph. I'm going to insert the code that I copied in between the two of them. Now, if I go back, you'll see that it appears over on the right-hand side a little bit. Ooh, it shouldn't really appear on the right-hand side. Let me delete that. It should actually appear right here in the middle. So you may notice that there's a yellow tag there, and that might show that it's going to be a problem, but it's not going to. Now, this alternate content, I suggest it should be the long description of your website, and that's code, or that's text that would show if the Flash file is not showing. The next thing we want to change is, you'll see that we have embed source player single, but we have this Flash vars sound path equals audio mp3. Well, we need to change this to the name of our podcast, mount _ Mitchell.mp3, and autoplay is no. Now, our width 192 and height 67 is the same size as our actual Flash player. Now, for this div, I'm going to select the div in order to create the CSS for it. Let's create a new CSS rule, and we can do less specific so that it just says MP3 player. Now, for my box, I need to change the width so it's the same size, 192, just 67. And I'm going to choose float on the right. And you'll see now, if I do OK, you'll see that that now appears over on the right-hand side. Now, the other thing that we can do is change our padding so that or margins, so that this text wraps around it easily. So I'm going to go to margins, click on off of same for all, and for the top it'll be 0, for the right 0, for the bottom 10, and for the left maybe 10 or even 20 could work as well. And you'll now see that there's a little bit of space around that. Click OK, and then you're ready to save your page and test it. So let's hit F12 so it will save all the pages that we need, and hopefully it will go to that page. Now, you'll notice over on the right that it's not showing the SWF file, but it's showing the alternative content. Now, it looks a little jumbled up here, but we're not going to worry too much about that, because when we activate our ActiveX control by choosing Allow Blocked Content, you'll notice that it shows just the MP3 player, and it no longer shows the alternate content. We can click on play, and it will play the podcast. And that's it, to embed the podcast within our file. Now, if we wanted to add some more text to this, we could, of course, add some other text inside this division to describe the podcast, so that when we go back to our page, we might have some text that describes the podcast above.